Hey YouTube, it's Charlie from Reader Turned Writer. Today I am walking you through my 2023 bullet journal. It has been a minute since I've been on YouTube, but I finished my bookish bullet journal for 2023 and I wanted to hop on here and share it with you guys because nobody in my real life can really appreciate it the way you guys do. So I'm just gonna jump right in and start showing you the pages. So this is my bullet journal. I always use a bullet journal that has the dots on it because that's something that I prefer. I'll link my bullet journal as well as just my favorite things that I use to make my bullet journal in the comments below. I did make a few changes to my bullet journal this year. Normally I am pretty heavily focused on reading in my bullet journal, and then I have some writing pages and some spreads for things like YouTube and Instagram, and this year I am still focused on reading because I do read a ton, but I am much more heavily focused on the writing aspect and less so on Instagram and YouTube because that's kind of the way my life has gone recently, and I think that's a good thing. This first spread in my bullet page is actually new, but I really like how it turned out, and it's just notes for changes or things that I want to add or anything for my 2024 bullet journal. I like to always have a page to kind of keep track of iterations that I can make for the next year because I do a bullet journal every year. But this year I made it more artistic with all of these little notepad things, and I actually tried to do more artsy stuff in my bullet journal a little bit this year. And then my next page is my monthly spread, and this is just my year at a glance. The things that I put here are just big things that may affect things like writing or reading. You know, like at Christmas, of course we read Christmas books, or if we're traveling to Disneyland, then I'm not going to be writing as much that month, that kind of thing. My next page, I decided to do 2023 goals in these 4 different areas. This is something that my church has recently been doing with the youth, and I really like that, breaking it down like this into these 4 different areas. And then my next page is my book log, and this goes on for quite a while because I fill in the book and author here, and then right here I actually put the page number so I can keep track of that, and then the star rating and the date I finished, and I color code all of my months. So January is blue. You can see all of the colors actually on my calendar page here. That's the color that I use for anything that I do in that month so that it's really easy to keep track of. So here in my book log I will do all of January's books in blue, and then I'll put a line under it, and then I'll start again in pink. And then I flip all the way past that, and here is my yearly tracker, and it actually goes with this page. So this is my stats page, and this is where I love my stats page. I love keeping track of reading stats. I think it's really fun to see the numbers and everything. And I usually just use tally marks here on this page, and then at the end of the month, I come to this page and I fill in the numbers so that I can look easily at a glance and see, you know, oh, I read 5 5-star reads in January instead of having to count up the tally marks. And then this page is just a visual representation for me of how many books I've read. So I just color in the numbers as I read that many books. My goal is to read between 120 and 180 this in 2023. After my stats page, I have a list that I keep track of my favorite books for the month. I pick my top 3 favorite each month, and then at the end of the year when I'm trying to pick my top 10 favorite books, it's really easy to come and just look at this list, and I can pull my top 10 from the 36 that I did throughout the year. This spread is new. I didn't have this before, but I always love to look at my top 10 favorite books of the year, and these are kind of the categories that I try to look at, like my favorite new release, my favorite book that made me cry, things like that. And so I have that, and then I have a bonus for my favorite reread because I don't actually count any rereads on my favorite books list. Then I have my 2023 TBR list. These are books that I really try to prioritize and finish this list every single year. I go through my Goodreads TBR list, which is like over 1,000 books or whatever, and I try and pick out the ones that I've heard people I trust talk about a lot, or ones where I was like, yes, I really want to read this book, and that way they don't get lost in the shuffle of all of the thousands of books that I want to read. I also try to have a wide variety of both age group targets and genres, and so this year I've actually added this where I can see if it's an adult, a middle grade, or a YA, and what genre it is. Then over here I have my classics list, and these are not books that I want to read next year. These are just classics that I want to keep on my radar. So here I have new ones that I haven't read that I would like to read, and here I have books that I have read that I would love to reread sometime in the future. And I put dots next to the ones that I want to read the most next year, and that helps me to narrow down which classics, because I usually only read 6 to 12 classics a year. Next I have my books to reread soon list, and this is similar. This is not a list of books that I want to reread next year, but simply books that I want to not forget to reread. Ones that I really enjoyed that I would love to reread soon, and then as I read the book, then I color it in the little square the color of the month that I read it in. And then I know the Rereadathon is not a thing on BookTube anymore, which is really sad to me, but I still try to reread one book a month, and I just called it a Rereadathon page because I didn't know what else to call it. So, but this year I did it a little bit different. Instead of doing it a list, I did it this like sun thing, and then I can color in this whole section when I finish rereading that book. And then here is my series spread. So I have these divided up a little bit. These are the series that I am currently in the middle of that I would like to finish. These are ones that I have read some books from, but I'm not actually sure if I'm going to continue reading them or not. But I'm also not ready to give them up and lose track of them, so they are here. These are series that I have started, but that not all of the books are out yet, so I can't actually finish the series until the new books come out. And these are series that I would like to read that I haven't actually started yet. And then I have a new release spread, and I actually want to do 2 pages for it. I'm not sure why I did one here. And then here is a comics page. This is also redone, and I really like the way it turned out. I know I am not like a huge artist, but I think that these actually turned out pretty cute, the little symbols and things, and these are just comics or graphic novels that I want to get to, or manga, whatever, that I would like to read. And then I have my read aloud for homeschool spread, and these are the books that I plan to read that month to my kids. Last year I read all but 2 of these to my kids. I managed to actually read them. The year before I didn't do as good with that, but we do usually read more than 12 books a year because we will usually have a read aloud that we're listening to as a family, and then I will often read to them books, at least 1 book a month, because we do it before bed. Then this is just a list of books that do not fit on my 2023 bullet journal, but also I feel like deserve to not just be lost in my thousands of books that I want to read list on Goodreads because of people who recommended them, or because multiple people talk about them all the time, or because they've been on my list for so long, or whatever reason. This list also is really helpful for me when Amazon, for example, has ebook deals for $1.99 or whatever, because if one of these books is on that deal, then I pretty much, it's an auto buy for me. Here is my Agatha Christie page. It's also redone. A lot of these pages were just lists before, and then I turned them into more artistic page. I did magnifying glasses, and I really like the way it turned out. I do the Agatha Christie reading challenge every year, where I try and read 1 Agatha Christie book a month. And I am currently trying to read all of her books, and I really enjoy them. They're one of my favorite reads every single month. And when I finish, I will probably reread them all because I've just enjoyed them so much. And then this page actually is continued later on, you'll see, but because I ran out of room here, and so even though I try so hard to organize them beforehand, it doesn't always work. So this is authors that I'm not ready to commit to reading all their books yet, but I do know I want to read more by them. And this year I did a box, and I can do just dash marks as I read a book by them. And then this is my list of authors that I do want to read all of their books. And if I've colored them in purple, that means I already read them. And then as I read more books by them, I can color in the squares here with whatever color of the month it is. So you can see Agatha Christie, Shannon Hale, Wendelin Van Drenen, and the list kind of goes on and on and on, because there's a lot of really great authors out there. And then here is my author collection. I'm not sure I love this page. I will probably try something different with it next year. These are just authors that I have already read all of their books, and if they have any new releases, like Brandon Sanderson, I think Marissa Meyer does. If they do, then I will put a dot underneath them as I read their new releases. Sarah Adams usually has at least one a year. After that, I have my middle grade March, because I always love doing middle grade March and Jane Austen July, where I can fill in the prompts here and then color them in as I read them. And then my September readathons that I always love to participate in as well. I don't do as many readathons anymore now that I'm not as big of a part of BookTube, but I do love the 30 books in 30 days readathon and the series September. I'll link all of the readathons that I listed here down below if I can find them from last year. And then this page is just blank, because if I find any new readathons that I do want to participate in, then I have a place to put the list. And then here, I don't know what that is. Oh, it's from here. You can see the brown kind of bled through there. Sometimes that happens. So this is my Nonfiction November. I usually read at least 1 or 2 nonfiction books in November, but I don't usually read a ton. And then I have my nonfiction book lists organized by the kind of topics, so like writing craft, self-help book, simple living, business finance, parent and homeschool, marriage, biographies, religious, and politics and history. And so these are all of the nonfiction books that I would really like to read someday. There's so many of them, and they all sound so good. And then after that, I have my library book catalog, and I put just the book here and then what format I get it in, because I love to get ebooks and audiobooks from my library as well. The due date, and then here I can mark with a check mark when it's returned, and here I can color in a square when I've read it, or mark an X if I end up not reading it. And then here's the more spreadsheet continued. I don't like this spot for it, but it was just the place that I had for it as a blank page here for some reason. So next year I'll definitely put those together. And then here is just a place for me to put books that I donate or unhaul, however you want to say it. And then here is a place where I can put the books that I buy. I put them in the bubbles of the color. So like blue is January, so any books that I buy in January I put here. Here are any children's books I buy, because I do end up buying a lot of children's books usually, and I can put them here and then color in the book whatever color of the month that I bought it in. And then here, this is another spread that I changed this year to be like more artsy, and I really like how it turned out as well. I think it's really cute. So I try to give away at least one book a month to someone that I know, a book that I think that they'll really enjoy. And so I just wrote down who I think I want to give it to that month, and then as I decide what book I want to give to them, I can write it here in the present and then color the present in that color. This is a new spreadsheet as well, and I think next year I will put it by my favorite books. It was kind of a spur of the moment spread, and so that's why it's not over by my favorite books spreads, but it's just like a bracket to eliminate your favorite book of the year. And then here is a stats page for buying and unhauling books. I love stats pages because of just how they look. I think they look so orderly. After that, I have my bookshelves of books that I want to buy. So all of these are books that I have read that I would really like to own because I want to reread them and or have my kids read them or show them on YouTube or whatever. I love to collect books. And then here is just a spot as I buy books, either ones that I read during the year that I really love, or if I buy some that I haven't read yet or people give them to me or whatever, then I can write them in here. And then here is just a little spot to keep track of how much I budget for books on the top, and then how much I spend on books on the bottom for each month. So January, February, March, April, etc. And then I have a little cover sheet here for movies. All of this is new. I never kept track of movies before, but we are wanting to go to Disneyland as a family in September, so I thought I would make a little spread for Disney movies that we might want to watch before we go, and then as I read them I can again just color in over the words with the color of the month that we watch them in. I don't know that we will watch all of them, but it's a good starting list. And then here is a spread for my husband and I of just movies that we can watch that have our favorite actors in them. So I wrote down a couple of our favorite actors, but we're always trying to find new movies that we think we will both enjoy. And so I can write an actor here that we've really enjoyed in the past, and then find other movies by that actor, and then if we watch them I can put the date here. And then something else that I like to do is make my husband watch rom-coms with me. And so here is just a list for me to put rom-coms that I want us to watch together, and then again I can color it in as we watch them. And then I am a big holiday person, especially now that we have kids and stuff. It's really fun. And so here are just some Halloween movies. I have Halloween and Thanksgiving, but I actually put my Thanksgiving list here. So here's Halloween movies that the kids and I can watch together, and then here's our Christmas movies and some Thanksgiving ones that we can watch. And then here are just a place for me to put movies that we've watched together as a family that we aren't going to rewatch right away, but that someday we could probably watch again for movie night and I'll really enjoy it. Then I love this little quote, and this is just kind of my cover page for writing. We are all of us stars and we deserve to twinkle. So here's a page for me to keep track of like stats and things for word count. So each of these little slots is 1 week. And then here I add those up and get my monthly word count. And then each of these again is 1 week, and I write the blog post plus the views. I don't know why these lines are not all the way on all of these, but I'm gonna have to go through and fix that because I want these lines on all of them, because on one side I put how many blog posts I wrote, which is usually 1 because I usually do 1 on my personal blog, and then on the other side is how many views I have. And you can see some of these have 5 slots, and those are the months that have 5 weeks instead of 4. And again, these lines should be on all of these. I'm not actually sure why they're not, but this is for, on one side I put if we met for writing group, and on the other side I put if I uploaded for writing group, and that way I can just kind of see at a glance, check or X if I did it. And then here is just the current writing project that I am working on, and then the percentage at the end of the month that I am at on that writing project. Here's a blank page for me to keep writing notes if I watch any lectures or read any books, etc. This is a new page that I'm trying, and my husband was teasing me because I did way too many squares for it. But some of these things I'm like not sure I even want to do, or if I do them, how often I'll do them. And so I didn't want it to be like a, did I do it this week? Because then just my personality, I end up feeling bad for not doing an Instagram post every week, or how many, every day or whatever. And so this is just a way for me to, if I do an Instagram post, I can color it in the color of that month. And if not, then it's fine. And so I have weekly writing, my weekend brainstorm or outlining, and that's where I kind of prepare for what I'm writing that week. Instagram post, story, YouTube video, personal blog post, reels, if I write any short stories, if I write any family stories, if I write any nonfiction books or personal letters, then I can color in the squares. Here's just a place for me to put notes and ideas, usually like, oh, if I have an idea for a YouTube video or a book, then I can write it here. Here's some writing notes that I don't want to lose that I copied over from last year's bullet journal. And then here's my writing streak. I do try to make progress on my book every day. Sometimes that means writing 500 or 1500 words or whatever on my story, but sometimes that means coming up with a new idea, or writing a sentence, or brainstorming, or whatever. As long as it's making progress on my novel writing goals. And then here is a word count tracker per week for each of the months of the year. And then at the bottom I can write how many scenes I've written, how many projects I worked on, how many writing craft books I read, and how many times I gave feedback on other people's works. And then here is just a place for me that is not quite so cramped to keep track of my progress on the current project that I'm working on. So here I will write the project, and I'll write what it is. Like, is this the first draft? Is this the final draft? Is this the whatever brainstorm? And then here I can write what percentage I've done with that current draft. And then here are some quarterly goals. I want these to be more specific to writing, and so that's why they're in the writing section. I haven't really done quarterly goals in the past, and so I just want to try it and see how it goes. And then I am thinking of doing Nanowrimo this next year. I haven't done Nanowrimo for a very long time, and when I've tried in the past, I've always struggled with it because I didn't really know how to write a novel. But I feel like I've learned and gotten a good system for it and gotten good habits, and that next year my kids will be getting a little bit older. Oliver will be 2 years old, and so I think that I will probably be able to put a little bit more time into it in November, where I've always tried in the past when I had babies and that just doesn't work very well. So here's my Preptober spreadsheet, just like a calendar for me to kind of plan, and then some things that I want to do in order to prepare. And then here's my Nanowrimo spreadsheet where I can write my goal amount of words, and then underneath I can write how many words I actually wrote, and then I can color in the squares or put an X as I either hit that word count or not. This is a spread here. This is just where I put quotes from my favorite books, and I write the quotes in the color of the month that I read the book in. And then this is my end of year stats page. And I've changed it a little bit where before it used to be a big section just for social media, but now it's mostly focused on writing instead because that's my focus. But I do have like a few things where I can keep track of social media stuff, and over here is all for reading and books that I bought and stuff like that. And I can use my monthly stats to fill in all of this information. And then here are just some bookish goals that I have. I'm not sure I will keep this next year. We'll see how it goes this year, but I feel like I haven't really used my yearly goal spreadsheets in the past very well. And then here is my calendar for, I have just like a calendar spreadsheet for every month. I'm gonna flip to February because I kind of messed up January's a little bit and fudged it. So here I have some goals that I have for February. I have any events that are taking place or that I want to participate in, and here are just some to-do items. This is all new. I haven't ever tried using this before. And then here is just a calendar, and I can write any YouTube videos that I do, blog posts, Instagram posts, things like that. And I can write notes here, like what craft book I want to be reading, things like that. And then if I do any YouTube videos or things, then I can write the view counts here. And then over here is my TBR list. And so these, the first 10 are ones that I really want to prioritize. And then I can have 5 more that would be nice to read as well. Or if I'm not in the mood for any of these, then I can choose one of these. And then at the end of the month, I can write if I DNF'd any of those, how many of these 10 that I wrote, and how many of the total 15 that I read. And then over here is where I write down all of the books that I own that I haven't read. So any ebooks that I own that I haven't read yet go here, and I try to keep them underneath this number. They used to all be 15, but I find that I buy a lot more ebooks because of Amazon deals, and so I ended up making this one longer. And then it just repeats all the way through December, and that is the end of my bullet journal. So that's my bullet journal this year. I was really happy with some of the spreads, with how some of the spreads turned out, and I really liked the more artistic pages, and even though I'm not really super artsy, but I copied a lot of people from Pinterest and Instagram and things, and I love to find inspiration there for a lot of my spreads. And I would love to hear if you have a bullet journal. Do you do a bullet journal or just a bookish bullet journal? Mine is purely bookish. What spreads do you have? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in my next video.